And good day and welcome back to the Constitution Line by Line. I'm Paul Fabrizio.
And I'm Don Frazier. I do the history. He does the political science. And
That's
now we've gotten all the way to Article 6.
Yes, the end of the Constitution
Is
in
nigh.
sight.
Yeah, interesting.
Okay. Are we ready?
Now, this has got 3 clauses, correct?
This has got 3. We're Article 6, and there's 3 clauses, so we're just going to take one in this section.
So there's no sections. So it's Article
There's
6.
Clause 1, Clause 2, Clause 3.
All in Article 6.
All in Article
They were
6.
not consistent in their organization.
Oh, of course not. Did we expect them to be?
I guess they went to the tavern a lot after writing all this stuff, because the further we get into this, the sloppier it gets.
Well, you have to remember also they were dealing with dysentery.
That's true. We had a sick bunch of guys.
They did, and they closed the windows in their meeting hall
Yeah,
because they didn't want people to hear.
yeah.
So much for public openness. And so it was hot, it was miserable, and many of them had problems with their stomachs.
Well,
So
that's why they probably drank beer.
yeah. So
Because it's probably the water's making them sick.
yeah, probably. Okay, so here we are, Article 6, Clause 1. All debts contracted and engagement entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation.
So it's just essentially this new government assumes all the previous debt generated by whatever got us to this point.
Right. Now, why would the new government want to do that?
Well, I imagine that they would want to keep some of their allies. Because, I mean, essentially if they said, well, that was with them, not with us, then all of a sudden the French are going, well, yeah, hang on, deal's a deal. Now, what's interesting is the Americans will pull that on the French. Oh, yeah.
Explain.
So what happens to end the American Revolution is that the British essentially reach a separate peace with the Americans, and they abandon their French allies and the French allies the Spanish. A lot of people don't realize that. So that's how come the British say your western boundary is going to be the Mississippi River, for instance. Mm-hmm. And the French are going, wait. And the Spanish are going, wait. And the Americans are going, all right, that sounds reasonable to us. All right. So the French, and to a lesser degree the Spanish, believed that the United States had some sort of at least moral obligation to them because of their support in getting to this point. But when the Americans pull out of the war, the British turn their guns full force against the Spanish and the French. And that fleet that saved everybody at Yorktown, I think I mentioned this previously, gets wiped out down in the Caribbean because, that fleet no longer has to blockade the American colonies. They can go hunt French frigates. All right. When the American Revolution ends, the United States is established, they assume all the old debts. That's how everybody thinks it's going to play. When the French Revolution occurs,
Okay, 1790.
well, 1789 is when, the act starts to drop. So
right
contemporary.
Right when this is out there for ratification.
Exactly right. So contemporary to this, the French, under the new government, they cut the king's head off. The new government says, hey, we're a republic just like you guys. We've taken inspiration from your constitution, so we're assuming that y'all are our allies. And the first president of the United States, George Washington, said, no, our deal was with the king, not you crazies. And said, we're neutral.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a lot of times people bust on the French for not being particularly, supportive of the United States. Hey, that door swings both ways. And so it's interesting that this clause is in there in this particular article because, hey, we're going to assume all those debts, but we're not going to do the same thing when it comes to the French, for instance.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the American treatment of the Spanish is just off the charts. So,
that's another story.
yeah, it's another story. But
okay, so the lesson from this one is that in the interest of maintaining relationships with others, obviously it's to ensure that you're seen as a reputable kind of ally.
That you're not
I mean,
going to, and you're not going to dodge your debts, because a bunch of the debts they're talking about are reparations to Tory property seized during the course of the American Revolution. That was part of the peace agreement between Great Britain recognizing the United States.
Yeah.
And so this new government could have said, you know what? We're supposed to pay this Tory family $10,000 for property seized in South Carolina, but that was that government.
Yeah.
We're a new government. But
even
they
though
didn't do
we're
that.
the same people.
Yeah, but they didn't do that. So.
Right. So they did probably, I mean, the moral thing, the ethical thing, but they probably did it for good, sound political reasons.
Oh, and practical reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if they hadn't,
yeah,
if they'd have just
consequences.
repudiated the debt, then all of a sudden, debt collectors would have shown up, and they would have brought their ships of the line with them,
Yeah.
and that would have been unpleasant.
Yeah, they would have taken various things that,
They would have. It says, okay, fine, then we're going to take this as collateral.
yeah.
Because that's certainly what they do with Latin American countries and in the next generation, et cetera. So
Yeah. Okay. So, short, sweet,
that's our line.
loved it.
All right, another line next time. Thanks.